welcome to the first official episode of Joe Bala Fitness Podcast. My name is Joe Bala. I am a personal trainer. I'm a Spartan SGX coach, level 2 coach. Woohoo! I'm a ninja warrior. And I have a special guest joining me today. He is my former manager at a gym I used to work for. I don't know if can I talk about the gym? Maybe-ish? I don't know.
Sure.
The former gym I used to work for was ClubSport in San Jose, California. San Jose is where I am from, where I was born and raised. But Dan, my guest here is my friend Dan Benton. He is my, again, former manager. He kind of opened the door for me to transition from engineering to fitness, which is huge. You know, he opened that door and it's just wide open for me, and I'm just trying to do this. I'm trying to catch up to his height, actually. So he's like 6'11". Once he starts talking, you can hear in his voice how tall he is. But yeah, I'm trying to catch up to him in terms of being a contributor in the fitness industry. So Dan, tell everyone a little bit about yourself. I'm just going to sit here quietly.
Okay. Well, I'm Dan Benton. I've been in the fitness industry for going on 13 years, actually, this month. My background is very much sports oriented. I grew up playing baseball, basketball, soccer, a little bit of golf, and I played those sports all the way through junior high, and then in high school I started to kind of narrow it down to baseball and soccer, and then eventually played those into junior college. And then when I went to San Jose State, I just focused on soccer. When I was at San Jose State, I got my kinesiology degree because I knew I wanted to do something in sports. I always kind of viewed myself as a coach, and so I wanted to do something having to do with sports or fitness or, some sort of like human performance kind of aspect. So, when I went to get my master's degree was when I actually started doing personal training. And I did personal training while I was doing my master's degree, and was a graduate assistant coach with the men's soccer team at the same time. So, do you want me to just get into it from there, or do you want a little bit more background? Or
that's good. So you're wearing an awesome T-shirt there, by the way. Maybe you want to point that out. So you started your own business, like I did. What's the name of your business officially?
It's officially Stronghold Fitness, and right now I kind of have two aspects of it. So the first aspect is I do a boot camp in the mornings. Right now it's a small group boot camp. I hope that it can kind of build up to a little more larger group. And then I want to try to do some small group formats on some different days that can kind of complement it a little bit. So we just started basically this winter, and since it's outdoor, it's been slow to build up because of the weather. But now that it's March and the weather is kind of getting a little bit better, we're starting to see more people wanting to get out and get exercise and get into a class, especially one that's outdoor, during this COVID period of uncertainty. So outdoor fitness is a lot better and a lot more attractive for a lot of people because they don't feel like they are inside and increasing their chance of exposure. So it's been good so far, and I think this year is going to just continue to grow. So that's what I'm hoping for. So that's the first part of it, and then the second part, I work with a company called Acceleration, which is a studio. It's a sports performance studio right up the street from me. And we work with mainly junior high school athletes. We have a few college guys that kind of come back and work with us sometimes, but mostly junior high and high school athletes that want to take their sport kind of to the next level and work on their speed, their agility, their quickness, their strength, overall athleticism. And a lot of times kids come in fairly athletic, but they don't have good control over their their strength and their abilities. So we kind of add those elements to what they're missing in their sport. So so I do that more individually, on an individual basis with those athletes, which is also nice because we can spend a little bit more time working on each individual athlete's needs. So, and I'd mainly do that in the evening and the weekends. So it's a good complement to what I do in the morning, where I can kind of still work with the general population and work with fitness people that just want to get shape and maybe lose some weight or just stay healthy. And then I get to work with my athletes in the afternoon and evening. So it's been good so far.
That's awesome. Are these on the boot camps? So you said general population? Are these individuals kind of in a specific age range, or are you just kind of kid, teens, anyone that's interested?
Yeah, anyone that's interested mostly. For the most part, most of them have been kind of in their 30s, 40s. We have a gal that's in her 50s
Awesome.
as well. So yeah, just kind of in that age range for the most part. But once again, I'm able to work with a lot of different age groups. So even if we have some older people that might want to come, I'm sure that we can still figure out a way to make it work for them. So, but always want to try to keep people safe. And the larger the group gets, the more challenging that can be. But for now, it's actually working out. We're just fine. So
awesome. Are these the Stronghold Fitness students that you have? Are any of them personal training clients that you coach one-on-one, or
no? They're all group. Yeah.
Group. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. That's very focused, very specific niche of individuals that you're working with. So the athletes that you have, do you see any future, number one football, baseball, soccer players that you're seeing, that you're working with? Or
yeah, I mean, possibly. Like, it's obviously still pretty far out. So the probably the oldest kid that I'm working with right now is a sophomore, and so as he gets into his junior and senior year next year, he'll probably start to get some looks from colleges.
Nice.
He already has a few people that have kind of contacted him, but more like the lower level colleges. So I don't know if any of them are going to be like number one draft picks or anything like that, but I do for sure see I would say most of the athletes that I see have a chance to make it into college, if they continue to work hard. And the next several years are going to kind of dictate whether they put the work in, the time and the effort in to get there or not. So
that's awesome. Do you do nutrition coaching for them as well, or they have a nutritionist?
Not really. I mean, I definitely give them some baseline kind of education per se when we're talking, but I don't go into depth about their meal plans or anything like that. Most of these kids just need calories and they need to eat well for the most part, but they need to eat because they're doing sometimes a lot of different sports. I have a few athletes that are doing 3 different sports right now. They're doing football, like spring football, they're doing lacrosse, and they're doing track. So
oh, wow.
They burn a lot of calories, so they just need calories at this point.
So they're multidisciplinary focused, kind of like you when you were a youth.
Yeah. Thankfully, a lot of our athletes have been 2 or maybe 3 sport athletes so far. So
yeah, and that's common, right, for most high school kids that started junior high school. They kind of do multiple sports, and then they figure out where they want to.
Yeah, I think that there's, I mean, every athlete's a little bit different, but I think that it's good for young athletes to play as many sports as they can reasonably manage without it hindering, and obviously their school or their life and their social life, that kind of stuff. But playing a few different sports, 2 or 3 sports throughout the year is, I think, good, especially if they can kind of toggle between the 2, so they can give certain movement patterns a little bit of rest. And it also is good for the athlete's mental health, because they can kind of shift gears and focus on something a little bit different. I know for a while, probably about 10 or 15 years ago, a lot when I was playing soccer and coaching soccer, there seemed to be a little bit of a trend where a lot of soccer players started to get too focused, like their parents would have them get too focused on just playing soccer.
Yeah.
And they would drop every other sport, and they would drop it early on, like before they even got to junior high. And I've always thought that that's a mistake, because I think the kid's chances of burning out with that sport are just drastically increased. And it takes away from other similar athleticism type of skills that they can use and translate into the sport of soccer. So
Yeah. So like tying into SAQ, like the speed, agility, quickness, that's important, right? To be able to have those different skill sets. So
yep,
that's
absolutely.
awesome. I know. Yeah. When I grew up, I played basketball, football. My mom, didn't want me to do because I was smaller back then and like really skinny. And she's like, "You're gonna get broken." That's what she said to me. So it's like she'd say it in a Filipino. She would say, "Joseph, you're gonna get broken," like that. She would say it kind of with a Filipino accent, and I was like, "Mom, it's fine. I'm just a wide receiver. I'm just gonna go run and catch the ball." So she said, she didn't want me to get, in her words, broken. Mm-hmm. So that's why I kind of transitioned from so I always played basketball, but then I got into track, and then I did eventually get into breakdancing, which was my next kind of love of movement. Yeah. And breakdancing
complement each other.
Totally, yes. Yeah, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of breakdancers on the basketball court. My cousin and I don't know if you ever met him, Paul. He's an engineer as well, and he was always big into basketball. And every time we'd play sports together or just play pickup one-on-one, we'd be breakdancing on the basketball court, because in indoor basketball gymnasiums, there's like super smooth, and back in high school we'd do breakdancing performances, and that floor, the wooden floor, is just perfect for spinning on your back, and it was just natural for us. As soon as you saw open space, all right, breakdance, and then play basketball, and then repeat. So it was like a natural transition for us. But yeah, so I got into breakdancing.
So was the basketball the rest period for the breakdancing, or was the breakdancing the rest period for the basketball?
Both, yeah.
So you got no rest.
It's kind of like what you said earlier. You hinted at, being able to, which I love that you hinted at, that was giving athletes that break. Whether it's physical or mental or social. Like you have to have those multiple disciplines to be able to become the best athlete you can possibly be, right? And so it was important for me to have more than just basketball. Like I loved Michael Jordan growing up. Yeah, he was my idol. I had posters of him everywhere. I said, I'm going to be the Filipino Michael Jordan at some point. Obviously, I didn't get to 6'6". I'm 5'11", but how tall are you, by the way, Dan? Could you tell everyone?
I'm probably more like 6'4" now. I think 6'4". I shrunk in my old age.
Okay, that's your highest. 6'5". Okay, 6'5", and okay, so still that's way taller than me, obviously. So, that was the goal for me, to be a Filipino basketball player. I could probably still play, but I choose to hold off on saving my Achilles from popping. And that's why I don't do basketball as much. But so I can do the Spartan stuff. I can do the ninja stuff. Those are my passions right now. Yeah. So tying into mental health, because that's something that's big for me. And the listeners that are new, they may not know this, but I have depression, I have anxiety, I have insomnia. So all these things happen internally in my head. And I told you earlier, like, to balance out basketball, I got into breakdancing, and eventually I even got into a little bit of gymnastics too, because I love like just, pushing my body weight and dynamics behind it. And so for your athletes and for your students, do you see, like, for the boot camp people, do any of them like talk about mental health with you or hint at it? Like any, you know, comments like, "Hey, Dan, I don't feel right today," or "I'm not there mentally." You know, have you ever heard of anything like that with either, you know, the athletes or the boot campers?
Um, Not, I haven't had any like direct conversations with kids about like specifically mental health,
Mm.
or any of my clients, at least my recent clients.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that everybody struggles at some point with something having to do with mental health. Like I think
Hmm.
that it's a really common thing to just doubt yourself or doubt your abilities, or
Yeah.
just have doubt about anything from like body image to your skills to anything. So where this might relate to in general, our general population, fitness people, is just the weight of everyday life becomes challenging. So
Right.
and when you are not doing something to help give your mind and your body a break from just the weight of life, then
Yep.
the weight of life is just going to continue to weigh down on you. And it's going to make it worse. So that's why
Absolutely.
I'm passionate about fitness. I'm passionate about health, getting out and just getting people moving. I think it does a lot for not only the body but also for the mind and the soul,
Yeah.
and gives somebody a distraction, gives them something that they don't have to think about. They just can go and do and perform and do the very best that they can, with what they got for that day. And sometimes they don't have it that day, and they still kind of work through it. And sometimes they do, and they set some new records or PRs, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But I try to help people understand, like, just continuing to move forward, just showing up regularly is going to be the thing that's going to help kind of get them through whatever they are struggling with. And sometimes people are vocal about opening up about those things,
Hmm.
and sometimes they're not. And I just want to be the person that can kind of at least be somewhat of um, a foundation and a grounding, where they can kind of always show up and get their workout in. And oftentimes people are always feeling better after their workout than they are before their workout, with
Absolutely.
regardless of what's going on. So
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely.
and I see that with my athletes as well. Like, I mean, there's times where they got some stuff going on at home, or they got a lot of homework that they got
Hmm.
some deadlines that they got to do with their schoolwork that they got to get through, or they got a big game coming up. And so even though they might not perform per se during their session, I have to continue to remind them, like, look, this session is not always going to be the game day where you have to perform your best every time. Even if you're not on and you're not performing your best, it's still important that you continue to train through it and work through it the best that you can, within reason. Of course, I'm not going to try to smash anybody every single day, but you kind of take what they give you, and you kind of run with it from there. And I've seen where a kid, I have had a kid where he's got some family stuff going on with his parents, and like he had just a very slow training session, and I knew something was going on. I kept on asking him, and finally found out, actually through his parents. He didn't mention anything, but it explained a lot of why he wasn't doing as well as I know he could have. But I didn't beat him down. I just can encourage him through it, and he did the very best that he could. And then the next session he came in, he actually set some new personal records, and ran a little bit faster on that day. And so it was good. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's huge. Like, you know, being fitness professionals, it's part of our duty to be that role model, to be that guiding light. And
Hmm.
you know, I've always found myself, like, I have family members that also deal with depression and anxiety, and friends as well. And they always looked to me because they always saw me as the, the guiding light or the model that they wanted to follow in terms of fitness, in terms of health and the whole nine. But what's funny is they didn't even know I was dealing with stuff internally in my head. And, being a former engineer, I worked, for those that don't know, I worked in the industry for 15 years as an engineer. I studied, mechanical engineering. I did the whole, like, from junior high school on. I studied all the math, all the science, all the, whatever you can think of related to engineering. And then I got to engineering school and did all that, undergrad, and then was pursuing at some point doing my master's. And I never took the time to slow down, and that was my kind of undoing. So the amount of, you talked about this earlier, the amount of, stress and pressure just builds and builds and builds and builds. Eventually it kind of spills over. And that's when, someone can, fall into a mental break, where that can trigger, unknown things, like in my case, depression, anxiety. I've always, known something was weird about how I dealt with things emotionally as a kid. Even my mom told me this when I was younger, that I tended to shy away from people. And I know, like, I knew after a while I was, like, more introverted than extroverted type of individual. And so I used my shyness and my quietness as a means of hiding what I was dealing with internally. And that's how I came to the understanding, like, this is what my depression is, this is what my anxiety is. And I was really good at hiding it. I went through my whole career as an engineer, knowing what I was dealing with. And then even just meeting you, coming into as a student, like, I took, those that don't know, like, listening in and watching, I took classes with Dan, and then another coach, Matt Truscott, which I'm going to get Matt on this podcast at some point. I would love to.
Yeah, he'd be awesome.
Talking, but so Matt Truscott was another coach, and he was in a sense a mentor like you towards me, and he didn't know anything about it. And what's funny is Matt mentioned one time in the classes that he was talking about depression, and I was kind of like this close to saying, "Hey Matt, I have depression," but I didn't say it because I was ashamed, and I at that time I wasn't fully accepting yet. Like, and this was back in, late 2016, when I was taking classes inside the Edge at ClubSport. And I think when I finally realized I wanted to switch careers, because one of the things with depression, mental health, is just finding your authentic self, finding your happiness, finding people that you can 100% relate to, and they can 100% relate to you. They can reciprocate that, right? And I found that in the gym. Like, and what was weird is, you saw me when I first came in as a member at ClubSport. Like, I was there every morning, 5 a.m., lifting weights. I was upstairs lifting the big weights, and you're like, "Hey," you told me, "Don't drop that heavy weight on the ground," right? And I was deadlifting, like, multiple plates and squatting this amount of weight. And I remember clearly one time I was squatting, like, 3 plates, and I could see you because you were to my left. You were doing your squats, and I was to your right doing I was doing my squats, and I could see you watching me. You're all nice, like that. I was like, okay, and I didn't know who you were at the time, and eventually I came to learn that you were, the director there, director of wellness, and that's kind of how I was like, okay, cool, I got a nice from, the director. So I never told you that story, but it was interesting.
Funny.
So
I don't remember it, but
yeah. So it was early in the morning. It was like 5 a.m. So I know you worked out early, just like I did, and because that's part of your, what starts your day, right? So same for me as an engineer. I had to start my day somehow and on the right foot, and so I had to make sure I felt good. If it meant increasing my feel good hormones, I'm going to do it. Right. So, even though mentally I wasn't, like, some days I just didn't want to go, but I just forced myself to go. And my wife, she's my number one supporter with my mental health. She was like, "You need to go, just get out the door and go." And I was up every morning, 4 a.m. I'll knock out some emails real quick, and then I'll just head out the door. My bag was ready, and I just go. So That's how I dealt with it. But that's it's so important. Like mental health is so important, and people don't realize you have your physical fitness, here, but if your mental health is down here, it's not going to work. Everything is
Yep.
symbiotic, right? You have to kind of balance everything out, and that kind of ties into my next question for you, which is passion and purpose. What's you mentioned earlier? Passion is fitness. I remember that. You mentioned that earlier. So, what do you feel, or what do you define as your purpose as a trainer, as a coach, as a business owner? Like, what do you define as your purpose?
Yeah, I mean, I've written several like purpose statements before. I can never really remember them. I'm not one of those people that has a huge mantra. But I would say it's something like helping people to take action on the goals that they have. I think one of the biggest things that people struggle with is having a goal but not knowing how to get started. And getting started is the hardest part for a lot of people, I think, because there's a fear, there's a doubt about being able to achieve that goal. They're not necessarily sure where to start. And when it comes to fitness, there's a lot of people that don't know what to do with fitness. They don't know necessarily how to lift weights properly. They don't know how to put together a program. They don't know if they should do more cardio, more weights, a little bit of both. Do they stretch? What do they do? And the kind of the easy answer is you should do a little bit of all three of those. But depending on what your goals are, the how you skew those things can be a little bit different. So if you want to build some muscle mass and get a little bit leaner and those kind of things, then typically you have to lift a little bit more weights. If you want to lose some weight and just feel a little bit healthy, then generally you need to do some weights and a little bit more cardio than maybe weights. But you should always be able to fit in some time to get some recovery and some stretching and flexibility, maybe a little bit of yoga, that kind of stuff. So, I guess my purpose per se is just to help people just be able to take action on those things, because I think a lot of people just don't know how to take action. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to start. And awesome. Similarly with my athletes, like a lot of athletes, they're comfortable in their environment, like on their field, on the court. They're comfortable there, but they might not necessarily be very comfortable in the weight room. And I was blown away to see that when I got to college, there are a lot of athletes had never been in a weight room before. They don't necessarily know how exactly to lift weights properly or safely. And most of the time, a lot of athletes would just stick with upper body because they didn't know how to do lower body, or they were a little bit too caught up with their upper body from an ego standpoint. But in most sports, it's the lower body that kind of gets you better.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where you get your speed and your athleticism from, is your lower body. So if you don't know how to do squats, lunges, deadlifts properly, even plyometrics, then you're not going to necessarily get very much better on the field or on the court. So yeah, hopefully that kind of answers your question about my passion, my purpose is just to help people take action on what the goals they have. So whether that's sports or whether that's fitness and health. So
in life, right? So yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
So if you were to define your approach and philosophy on personal training and coaches, like I'm thinking of those future trainers and future coaches. Like you inspired me to become a trainer, and Matt Truscott, coach, awesome coach, inspired me. And you guys kind of gave me that, you planted that seed, and I was like, all right, I love fitness. I always had a passion for fitness, even as a youth, and I just didn't know my purpose could be a coach, could be a trainer, could be a business owner, and in this realm. And so, like, if you were to give advice to those future, up and coming trainers, up and coming coaches, or even anyone that may be interested in making a career switch like I did, what would you define as your approach and philosophy? Like, how would you want them or how would you
Yeah.
mentor them to get there?
Well, I think the first like approach or philosophy would have to be um, the process and the journey of whatever you're going to try to achieve, whether you're trying to help a client who has, some sort of either short-term goal or long-term goal. Chances are it's going to be a journey for that person. And whether that's, fitness or even in athletics, it's going to take some time, and there are no quick fixes to the things of that nature. So, um, your your journey in the process of achieving that goal is what you need to kind of learn how to enjoy and get comfortable with. And so I think for my philosophy is how I approach a client or how I approach an athlete. I want to try to build them from the ground up,
Right.
layer in the foundation first, and try to help them understand this is going to be a step by step. We're not going to necessarily always get to some of the the fun and exciting exercises right off the bat, especially
Mhm.
if you can't do some of the basics first. And so laying out a journey and kind of a roadmap for people, I think really helps. And helping to set the expectation that this might take a little bit longer than you might think
Yeah.
it's going to take. And
Yeah.
that's okay, because that time is going to come whether you want it to or not. And you're going to either be at that goal or you're not going to be at that goal. And if you don't start somewhere, then you're definitely not going to be at that goal.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
so I think that's my philosophy approaching, my clients, my athletes. And then when it comes to, let's say, the business of training or the business of personal training or coaching, especially personal training, there's kind of three main things um, that I always try to focus on. And I used to kind of have these discussions when I would interview new trainers or potential new trainers. There's three main things. First, there's your technical knowledge. Second, your personality, and then third, your business acumen or your sales or your kind of approach to the business of what you're doing. Um, the technical knowledge always comes first, because if you don't know what you're doing as a coach, you might be a really good athlete, you might lift heavy weights, but if you don't know how to coach that stuff, you don't know how the science behind that stuff works, you're not going to be a very good coach. You're just going to be the egotistical person that just, hey, look at me, I can lift really heavy weights, but good luck you trying to figure out how to get to my weight. Like, I don't know how to
Yeah.
coach you. So,
Right.
so as a trainer, like a new trainer, you need to work on your education, and always starts with, obviously your first certification is really important. And I always recommend that people take that first certification seriously, and they go through each of the steps, even if it's not something that's like a chapter or a category that you're interested in. Know it, because you're going to have to answer those things eventually with certain clients. And so you want to try to get as much knowledge as you can out of those certifications. And even the stuff that's not very fun, you still
Mhm.
need to kind of understand so you can explain it to somebody later on.
Right.
And then understanding that technical knowledge is going to be a lifelong thing, a career long thing. You're going to continually have to work on your education. You're going to have to work on the things that maybe you're not very good at, you don't know as much about,
Mhm.
so that you can be a much more diverse type of personal trainer. You can work with the people that have injuries. You can work with the people that need a little bit more nutrition coaching. You can work with the people that maybe know what they're doing, but they have issues more with motivation and working hard. And so having a little bit more of a understanding of how to influence motivation out of people
Yeah.
is helpful.
It's huge.
And so those are all the kind of the technical knowledge things that you need to understand, and knowing that it's going to constantly be a learning a journey that you're going to have to continue on.
Right.
And once you learn it, you're going to have to also learn how to teach it, which is also a little bit different. And
That's completely
the great
different.
thing is that when you learn how to teach it, you also relearn it a lot better, so you
Yeah,
know it a lot better. So, um, so
absolutely.
so technical knowledge is the first thing. Number two, personality. Like if you don't have a great personality, then you're going to probably struggle in, well, probably almost a lot of different businesses that you do, but especially this one as a personal trainer or a coach, you need to have a very dynamic personality that works with a lot of different type of people.
Hmm.
The people that are outgoing, the people that are shy. You need to be able to work with all different kind of people. So how can you work on your personality skills, your interpersonal skills, to be able to make people feel comfortable with you from the instant that you meet them,
Right.
is somewhat of a skill. I'm an introverted person, and when I first got into personal training, I actually really didn't like that aspect of personal training. I was like, look, I'm an athlete, I'm a coach, I know how to like train. Just give me the people and I'll train them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really work that way. Even if they gave me the people, I'd probably lose half of them anyway. So
Right.
it's just because my personality wasn't necessarily all that dynamic at the time. So I had to work on
Yeah.
my personality skills.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of break outside of my shyness and my kind
Hmm.
of introvertedness to be able to be good at what I was doing.
Hmm.
And thankfully, I was kind of able to make some of those steps, and be able to work with a lot of different people, and different personalities. And I felt more comfortable with it. And I didn't try to be somebody who I wasn't. I just kind of was
Yeah.
myself, and I might
That's
have a
huge.
little bit more energy with this person, but might have a little bit less energy. But I was always kind of myself. I never
Yeah.
tried to be somebody I wasn't.
Yeah.
I think that's really key with trying to work on your personality. So, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of good like personal development books out there. There's Dale Carnegie has a really good one. How to win people and how to win friends and influence people is one of his good books that kind of
Mhm.
gives some good like structure around how do you work on your personality. That's kind of a weird thing to work on. So there's some good books on that as well. So,
Nice.
um, and then the last thing is obviously sales. Like that's the thing that probably most trainers, when they get into it, they don't they don't really like,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I don't blame them, because I didn't really like it at first either. But learning how to figure out the motivations behind people, like figure out
Hmm.
why things are important to them. Why is there the goal that they have? They want to lose 10 pounds. Well, why? How did they come up with that goal? What is it about losing 10 pounds that's going to change their life? And you might find it has nothing to do with the 10 pounds. That might have something to do with something completely different.
Right.
So you have to kind of learn how to dive into some sometimes uncomfortable conversations with people, have some open-ended questions, that get people talking a little bit more, so you can learn more about them, and then helping them to understand how their goals and their reason why they want to achieve that goal is going to, have a better chance of succeeding if they work with you. And then from there, if they trust you, and if they are confident with what you're able to do for them, then you just got to figure out the money aspect, and then figure out some different options for them that work for their budget and work for their schedule, and go from there.
Yeah.
But it's more than just sales. It's obviously understanding the sales process, that is sometimes challenging for a lot of people. And it's a big funnel. Like you start with just trying to get as many people to know who you are, and know as many people especially if we're on the fitness floor, trying to get as many as we call leads into
Hmm.
your big funnel. And that just kind of starts with just getting yourself out there, putting yourself out there, talking with people, making phone calls, that kind of stuff, and get as many people that might be interested in working with you. And then you set appointments, and then from the appointments you have to work on your sales ability, and then from there you kind of go from there. So obviously there's a lot to understanding sales, business acumen, how to make the job work for you financially so that you can do it for a long time and not
Yeah.
quit and say, hey, I can't make any money and I can't, have the life I want to live. So you need to have a little bit of business acumen. So those are the three main things: training, or like your technical knowledge, your personality. You always got to work on your personality, and then work on your business acumen. And I'm always a big believer in working on yourself more than working on your business. I think a lot of times trainers can easily get caught up on working on their business too much, and they don't take any time to work on themselves. They stop working out, which is shocking to me when people got into the business in the first place because they love working out. And so they kind of put too much time into the business, and they forget about themselves. And that never leads to being a good coach down the line for a long run. So work on yourselves more than you work on your business, because that's just going to make you more valuable from an education standpoint. It's going to make you continue to stay whole as a person, and both mentally and physically. And so that's one of the good pieces of advice that I got early on, was work on yourself more than you work on your business. And
that's awesome.
The rest will kind of just fall into place. So
yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Did that advice come from a mentor of yours, or
I think it was probably a book that I read or listened to. I listened to a lot of books. I used to read a lot. I don't read as much as I like to anymore, just because life is busy. I got 3 kids, and so I love Audible. I love listening to books when I'm working out, or doing yard work or something like that around the house, so that I can continue to work on myself. And sometimes a lot of it has to do with more personal development and goal setting and all that kind of stuff. So one of probably the first mentor from a book or author standpoint is John Wooden. He was probably the first book that I read, called Pyramid of Success. And that was probably the first personal development book that I've ever read. And it really helped. It really helped kind of put things in perspective on oh, okay, so all of these little tangible, small attributes make a huge difference down the road, and in not just athletics, but also in life. And so they all kind of just continue to replay themselves over and over again throughout life. So personal development books I think are huge. And just, working on all different kind of aspects of personal development is one of the best ways that I've learned to be a better coach, be a better trainer, be a better manager, especially when I was managing more, because I was able to kind of meet people where they are at, and help them kind of work through those challenging times a little bit more. So,
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So, managing yourself, that's huge, because, relating this to mental fitness, self-care is something that a lot of people don't do enough of daily, and, something simple as, and this is thanks to you. I told you I woke up, and listeners and audience here, they may not know this. I wake up every morning at 4 a.m. Normally what I would have done, or what I would do, was go and do my mobility work, or, whatever work I didn't do the day before, the few days before, because I was so busy, coaching, training, living life. Right. And so now I make it a habit to take that 4 a.m. wake up and just open the Bible, or launch my Bible app, and literally take the time to connect with God, and open myself to Him, and just kind of, find something that I can relate to. And this is something you and I discuss all the time, is just kind of, take something you can relate to and apply it in real life, and I do that daily. So thank you for that, Dan. Just kind of, opening my eyes to doing that. And, in something you told me before too, it really stuck, was even if it's just 5 minutes, like just pick a verse, read it again within 5 minutes, and then just kind of, fully immerse yourself and understand what it means. What are they trying to tell you in the scripture, right? And so that's huge for me. And once I do that daily, and you do, and I know you do the same, is the rest of the day kind of falls in place. Like nothing's gonna, cause you to falter. Nothing's gonna, even though you might see some obstacles in front of you that day, like those are nothing. It's as easy as in Spartan, as easy as clearing a wall, right? Or a hurdle or whatever it is. So, I think it's important for people to always be mindful, self-care and caring for yourself. And as a trainer, as a coach, if you're coming into the business and the industry, you have to work out. Like you can't just, you can't just be a trainer or a coach and not work out. Like that's just like being an engineer and you're not studying, doing research on future, you looking at peer-reviewed articles and researching, hey, this is the latest, trend, or this is the latest this. It's the same in fitness. You have to do the same. Do your research, do your work. And if it's for yourself, block out that time during the day. And, you always invite me, which I appreciated. Hey, Joe, let's go do our workout. And this was like the first thing in the morning, right? So, or middle of the day, I see you getting ready to, I know you were constantly working all day long. You were there probably the longest out of everyone. And starting at 5 a.m. until about 6, 7 at night. And, I saw that and I appreciated that. And, you were as hard a worker as I've ever seen anyone else do. And you always took the time to care for yourself, do your workouts, inspire others, make sure your team, of trainers and coaches were taken care of and were taking care of themselves. And, like I said, those things kind of, everything I've learned from you literally has stuck with me, and I apply it, daily, and continue to grow and look to learn and grow.
Yeah.
And
so
I guess, go ahead.
I'd like to touch on, like, having at least, 5 minutes, getting in the word and praying is so important. Doing that daily is absolutely important. I think it might surprise a lot of people, but I don't work out every single day. I might work out, I probably average 4 days a week. And so there's times where I'll have, better weeks or whatever, but I don't work out every day. That's not the thing that I think, is the most important. It's definitely important. And if I get to a point where I'm not working out multiple days a week, then that's a problem. But getting in the word, having some prayer time, having at least your day kind of start with God is important. And I think it really sets me at ease because I have full trust that God's in control. And even if I am nervous about something, or even if there's something going on that day that kind of puts me on edge a little bit, I've learned to trust God with it, even if it doesn't turn out the way that I was hoping it turned out. I know that it turned out that way for a reason, and I know that God wants me to learn something from that. So that kind of really sets me at ease. Like, it doesn't mean that my day is going to go perfectly. It just means that I'm going to have a better feeling about the way the day turns out, whether it's a bad day or a good day or a little bit of both. I know that God's in control of it, and if it turns out to be something that is a bad day, or something bad happens, then I know that there's probably a reason why God allowed it to happen, and it's my job to kind of seek God out and figure out why that happened, or it's something that I can kind of work on next time that I can maybe try to avoid. And so, one of my favorite quotes is I'm either winning or I'm learning. I'm never losing. And so that helps kind of keep me in perspective for those kind of things. So, but getting in the word every day, getting a little bit of prayer time, even if it's like 5 minutes, I'd like to do it longer, of course. And I do have longer times that I get to study the word or listen to a sermon instead of a book. Those are all probably the most important things. And if I don't have that time, which occasionally happens, then usually my day doesn't turn out as well as I know it probably could have. So
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Just having that, you set that tone for the rest of the day, doing, starting with that routine. And that's something huge from the mental health space, is like having a routine or a ritual, whatever
yep.
it is, like something I practice daily is I write down 3 things at night, and I know I'm going to work on them tomorrow. If I don't get those 3 things done, I'm, I didn't own the day. I didn't seize the day. And so
Right.
I always write it down every night. And next morning, okay, here's my first task after I do my morning stuff. I go, all right, knock that out, check, or I cross it out. And I go about my day and come back to my list. All right, I got number 2, boom. And then and so on. So that's something I learned through some online training coaching that I'm doing right now. So through
Nice.
the OTA, I don't know if you remember Jonathan Goodman, the OTA Online Trainer Academy. So he talks about that. So that's where I got that from. So it's a good ritual. I think he called it 3 a day or 3 times a day ritual. I forget. It's on my calendar. But as soon as it pops up, I'm like, okay, now I know I got to do that. So, so then, we've been talking about spirituality here, which I love and I appreciate. So from, you mentioned like dedicating some day time during your day. If you can't get it in your day, you listen to a sermon or you listen to music or whatever. And that's something that I listen to some Christian music as well. There's some songs that stand out to me. So with your life in general or with your career, are there people that you interact with daily, or students or clients that are in the same space, like they need that, or they invite God into their life? And how do you fit that into your approach and in life in general?
That's a good question. I think my wife is probably my number one example of kind of, trying to do the same practice as I do. And she actually does a really good job of doing like physical Bible studies where she's like writing, going through a book of the Bible, and she's doing kind of a study book. So she'll do that consistently. And so it's always nice to kind of see her be able to do that fairly consistently. And so I'm encouraged by that a lot of times. Regarding my clients and my athletes, I think everyone's in a little different space. I'm still getting to know, quite a few of the people that are in my boot camps. And so I haven't gotten all the way to talking too much, about faith with them quite yet. But I do have a few people that attend the same church as I do. And so we kind of have a good, at least a good in that we can kind of talk about the sermon and that kind of stuff. So that's awesome. Been encouraging to kind of discuss those kind of things, at least for now. And then hopefully we can kind of build upon that and go a little bit deeper. So, cool. And then I have a few of my athletes that I know are Christ followers and believers, and it's nice to kind of have some conversations, especially with the younger kids, as they are kind of developing their faith as well, and learning how to apply their faith to their sport, and being able to kind of have conversations with them and let them know I'm praying for them for their game or their meet or whatever is nice, to be able to kind of build into those athletes as well. I try not to force those conversations to happen. I let kind of God open those conversations and those doors happen. And so, it's one of the things that I love about this type of business is oftentimes it's very personal and relational, and we can have, certain conversations, and I can kind of challenge some of my athletes and my clients to build that into their lives and into their daily habits as well. So,
Awesome.
but everybody's a little bit different, and some people don't believe in God at all, and that's okay. And I hope that they do at some point, and I hope that I can be at least a light to that down the road. So
That's awesome. Yeah, it's fantastic to hear that. Like your approach with your faith, and your life and your career, like everything kind of melds together, right? And that's what makes you complete, right? And
yeah.
It looks like we're at the time limit that we set or that we agreed upon. So I want to be respectful of your time. I wanted to ask you, do you have some time for some quick fire questions, like to finish up, and then, or do you want to do this another time?
How quick can you fire them? Can you fire them within 5 minutes?
Yeah, I'll give you 5 questions right now. Are you ready?
Yeah. Yep.
So just for the audience to listen in, quick fire is I'm going to give Dan a question, and he has to answer it quickly without thinking, just like yes, no, true, false, no thoughts whatsoever, just whatever comes to his mind. Okay.
Oh boy.
You ready for this, Dan?
I don't know, but I'll find out.
All right. Let's see. Let me start with this. What is your favorite cheat meal?
Ooh, I wouldn't say it's a cheat meal because it's something I have probably at least weekly. But my favorite meal is a bacon cheeseburger with avocado, barbecue sauce, grilled onions, tomatoes, lettuce. Yeah, I usually put some ranch and some barbecue sauce in there as well. So,
oh my gosh,
it's usually two patties. So
now I'm hungry. So relate in relation to that. I think it sounds like you prepare that yourself, right? So
sometimes I do, yeah, but oftentimes I'll get it out. So
okay, so you get takeout. Okay, so do you cook?
Yeah, sometimes. My wife's a better cook than I am.
Okay, I'm in the same boat, so don't feel bad. She forces me to cook. We have it on my schedule. Cook routine this time and this time, and pick meals, and I got to knock it out. And I have to. It's something I'm working on daily, just to get better at cooking and prepping meals and stuff. So, one more question related to food. What's your favorite beverage? Your go-to, aside from water. Like, don't count water.
Like that's probably my favorite. I don't know. I really try to stay away from sodas because I really like sodas. And we did away with sodas a long time ago, so we don't have sodas in the house. But I do enjoy occasional beer. I only have one, and it's usually no more than once or twice a week. So,
all right, that's awesome. I love beer. I like IPAs, lagers, whatever it is. I don't drink as often as I used to before, but yeah, I'll squeeze in one beer a week maybe, just to hang with family and kind of have that downtime. So that's awesome. So you are human then. Let's see. So another question, unrelated. Who is your real life superhero?
Real life superhero. I'd probably say my dad.
Nice.
My dad was my first coach for soccer and baseball, and he coached most of my sports growing up. And so I think I got a lot of my coaching passion from him. He's always loved sports, still loves sports. So, and he's always been through every kind of sport journey that I've been through. So,
that's awesome.
And at the same time, like, some of my other skills having to do with like woodworking and plumbing and that kind of stuff, like just general kind of handyman maintenance stuff is all from him. So
life skill, right? So yeah.
And then my dad was in the Army during Vietnam, and thankfully he wasn't there for too long, but he he developed a routine that he worked out every morning. And he would go for a run. He would do some calisthenics, do some core push-ups, that kind of stuff every morning. And I would see him do it every morning. And so I probably picked up a lot of that stuff just from his example. So
that's awesome. So he set an example, and that turned into a habit for you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I think I got one more minute here. So I'm gonna give you one more question.
Okay.
So now put your, we talked about superhero. So put that in your head now. So out of all the superheroes that you've ever heard of or read about or saw in movies, like which superhero do you identify with most?
Gosh. That's a tough one. I'm not a huge Marvel fan or sci-fi person. So, but the one that I probably resonate the most with, just because I think he's really funny in the movies, is Thor.
Thor. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
I really like Thor. Yeah,
that's good. So
more for his comedy than anything, but he's pretty strong and holds a big hammer and that kind of stuff. So I think that's kind of cool.
That's awesome. My wife's favorite superhero is Thor, by the way. But not for the same reason. It's actually for his muscles and his looks. So, so we'll leave it at that. That's awesome. So I wanted to close with that. Thank you so much for being my first official guest on the Joe Bala Fitness Podcast. I appreciate you so much as a brother, as a mentor, as a guide, as someone that I can look to whenever I need that support. And you're part of my tribe, and there are many others out there that are part of my tribe. And the more that I can communicate and relate and do this kind of stuff, it helps me with my self-care and my mental health. So that's why I decided to pursue doing this podcast. So
that's great. Well, I'm honored to be the first one. So
it's only fitting because you gave me the opportunity to walk in the door and interview, even just to get the interview, and apply as a trainer. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
I will let you go.
Okay.
Close with that. So guys that are listening, audience, this is not the first interview with Dan. I hope that he can continue being a regular guest for me.
For sure.
And maybe be a co-host at some point, if he wants to. But
I don't know about that, but
so we'll invite Dan back, and look forward to the next episode. So thank you, Dan. I appreciate you. Have a good afternoon.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
All right. See ya.
All right.
Take care.
Take care.